All right, so welcome back. We are TongLen class number, I don't know, it's November 21, 2025. I thought we'd do class first and the meditation after. So we'll do our opening prayers first and then go to class. So let's gather our minds here. As we usually do, please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize that the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about emptiness and karma, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. and that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach me that. Show me that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, four lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. So at this place in Geshe is teaching us about TongLen practice and growing our bodhicitta. He went into something called an active truth. Like it actually comes up in Nucha Dharmabhadra's text. So you'll see it in your reading. You may find our vocabulary here. It's a little better. So here it is, Dempe Tok. Dempa means truth, and somehow Dempe Tok means an act of truth. So an act of truth means that we are deciding do to do what we're going to do in response to this situation based upon our understanding of karma and emptiness, which means that we're going to choose an action, body, speech, or mind, but let's assume we're talking about a physical action here that probably does not look like it's going to solve the problem or address your immediate need. because you're looking at it from your understanding of here's the conflict in the situation. What seeds do I need to plant to resolve this? Versus our worldly thought, how do I fix this? Right? There must be a way our ignorant mind, ordinary human mind, thinks this is how I fix a problem like this, the worldly way. An act of truth is to say, that was how I used to try to fix it. But this time, because I understand that what I do in the moment can't bring what happens next, I understand I need to affect this problem by way of seed planting rather than worldly way. And then if we actually do it and hold to it, we can say, by the power of this truth, right, that I acted because of karma and emptiness, then may such and such come about. There's a way to word our active truth. And to help understand an active truth, Geshe used the example of Gandhi in India. He says Gandhi understood this principle of emptiness in karma in probably different words. But in his leadership, everybody was saying, we've got to fight the British to get them out of governing our country. And he kept saying, no, violence won't do it, even if it looks like it does it. We must resist nonviolently, absolutely nonviolently. And people would go, no, they're going to hurt us. We'll all get killed. He flatly refused. There was an example, apparently, one time where the guard was insisting that he carry his identification card with him all the time. I guess people were supposed to do that. And he refused. He said, no, I won't carry that card, right? His nonviolent resistance, one piece of it. And the guard said, you carry that card or I'm going to break your arm. And Gandhi took the card and he dropped it in the nearby fire in front of the guard. And then the guard said, okay, broke his arm. And it's like, so did defying the guard get his arm broken? Looks like it, but no, right? With wisdom, we understand he got his arm got broken as a karmic ripening of some past violence he did to somebody else. And he knew that, and he was willing to demonstrate that to people. So he's leading everybody in these acts of truth. How long did it take before those acts of truth? Don't want to phrase that wrong. How long did it take before the result they were wanting to see happened? I looked it up. It took 20 years. Right? So these acts of truth, they're not miracle makers, although they could be. And, I remember when I first heard about active truth, it's like, well, great, I can establish an act of truth and do one deed in a different way than I ordinarily would have. And I could use the words of the act of truth to say, and so by the power of that deed, may I see emptiness directly on Monday. And then Monday comes around and it doesn't happen. And, what's going to happen to my belief in my act of truth or my belief in myself doing an act of truth, right? All of a sudden, it's like, well, maybe it wasn't so true that I did that deed with a high intention. I'm not so good. Oh man, right? I'm bad. I'm never going to get there. Or maybe it would be, well, these acts of truth don't really work. I'm going to quit doing them. Right? Wrong conclusion, but only because of our misunderstanding, thinking that an act of truth has something, a self-existent, something in it, from it, that's gonna bring about what I want because I do it as an act of truth. So I tried to think of an example to find this nuance of how to use an act of truth to increase the power of our seed planting, because they explain that to choose to do something that's right karmically versus worldly has a separate seed planting power than the deed alone. So that's where the power of the act of truth comes in. That this power of this really conscious and stated intention to act according to wisdom, that has its own seed planting power that takes time to ripen, right? It's still a seed planting. So we can't expect it to plant an act of truth today and have it come up, right, show its result in the next moment, or necessarily in 24 hours, or necessarily a week. But once we've planted it, an act of truth is such that it will ripen. So there are some imprints that we plant in our mind, and they're vague and not very powerful, and they may like shift for a long time, but because of our other deeds, they're getting influenced such that they actually never reach the threshold for bringing about their result. So, we think every seed I plant is going to ripen into a result, and we should think that. But there are some seeds that actually will never, ever make it. And we can cultivate that by doing our purification practices and et cetera, to actually cultivate the fact that some seeds won't ever ripen. Thank you very much, right? I don't want them to ripen. Eventually, we're going to have to damage or transform all of those seeds, but that comes later. So an act of truth has this power to increase the power of the deed that we do as a result of it, because we're choosing it so conscientiously from our growing understanding of truth. So, like an example I tried to come up with, I thought, suppose that a opportunity for a promotion comes up at work, and we want that promotion, but so does Bob. And so we both put in our applications for the promotion. And, in a worldly way, we would then be on our really best behavior. And, every chance we'd get, we'd be trying to show how we'd be the greatest for the job, trying to get the job. An act of truth might be, because I understand the power of karma and emptiness, I know Bob has applied for this job. So I'm going to use every chance I get to sing Bob's praises, right? To show how great Bob is in as many ways as I can. And I'm doing it as this act of truth. So suppose then Bob does get the job. right? Worldly me would go, why did I do that? Wise me goes, wow, I helped Bob get that job. He's so happy, right? I'm going to help him be a great boss. Suppose I do get the job, right? I might think, wow, look, maybe these prayers really work, right? There was this like little mantra going around ACI Diamond Mountain for a long time. It's like, hey, Lama, these prayers really work, because people would have that experience of doing, right? It's kind of a clash of worldview, doing the opposite. And then, oh my gosh, they get some amazing result, by the next term. So back to my example. So I could get the job. And then hopefully my wisdom would continue and I would use my position to help everybody on my team. That includes Bob, who's probably jealous and upset, to help them all shine. Mm. So if I didn't get the job, another way I could understand this would be, well, then the seeds I planted helping Bob get that job are growing, and their result will be even better, something better. And that my act of truth actually brought about, all right, the me in a position still waiting for this better thing to come about. Whereas if I had gotten the job and this better thing came along, it's like maybe I would be limited and I wouldn't even see it as an opportunity. So it's like I can do this act of truth thinking the act of truth is going to get me the job. I can say, by the power of my pure intention, then may my deeds of singing Bob's praises get me this job. Or our act of truth could be, by the power of the truth of trying to get this job by singing Bob's praises, may the highest and best for everybody come about. And then, whatever the outcome, we go, okay, this is the highest and best coming about. Maybe the company goes to a third person. I don't get the job, Bob doesn't get the job, third person gets the job. And we go, hey, what's up with that? No, highest and best, right? So it really, the act of truth is the power on our own mind. Does that mean it doesn't really work? We're just doing magical thinking. No, that's how it works. Do you see? So if we word our act of truth in this really, really specific way, I want to see emptiness directly by Monday, we're limiting ourselves in what our act of truth can do. And it says something to our own mind that discounts the actual act of truth. And it's really hard to understand because it sounds like I'm justifying when acts of truth don't work, right? That's what it sounds like to me. But no, it's explaining acts of truth and how to set them up in such a way that they really can work, right? We want our statement, our if then statement We want that than to be not limiting and really like bigger than we're even starting from, bigger than our worldly wish when we do our active truth. So we'll see there are words that we put together in a certain way. And so when we're doing our TongLen, we can end that TongLen with an active truth. And, I haven't been doing it so far in our TongLens, and I forget to do it myself in my daily practices. And so I'm happy to share with you to help me do better. But when we do our dedication prayer, right, the dedication prayer is kind of an active truth because it says, by the power of the goodness we've just done, may, right, all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom. So our dedication is an act of truth. If we started class with the understanding that we are what we're doing in class is planting seeds in our minds to grow into something bigger in the future, as opposed to I'm in class to learn something. And it's like, we are in class to learn something. Yes, but, right? That's the worldly reasons we're in class. We could sit in class and not learn a thing, right? We could sit in class and learn stuff that if you asked me, I would say, I didn't teach that, right? Because you're hearing what you're hearing. There were apparently students in Lord Buddha's audience when he was teaching something like Heart Sutra. And what that student heard was a Diamond Way teaching. And Lama Christie, from time to time, she would say something like that. I was in that ACI 10 course and I was getting tantric teachings. And it's like, no, those are sutra, right? But we all hear what our karma is ripening. So that's really the reason we're here, is we're planting seeds. So we can do this whole class as an act of truth, and in the end, our dedication prayer makes it so. Right? And so that's why we set it up the way we do at the beginning. Right? It's kind of fun. It's like the whole system of our practice and learning is built in such a way that we don't even have to know the details of what we're doing and why we're doing it. We just follow the program. Geshe always says, just donkey stubbornness, follow the program, right? And the changes will happen. But how much more powerfully we can do it when we understand what we're doing, when we're doing it. I kind of feel like, as teenagers, we got to that point where, parents say, do this, do that. And then it's like, tell me why, and if I agree with you, I'll do it. And if I don't, I won't, right? It's kind of like that. At some point in our spiritual growth, we hit the teenage, I'm not going to do it just because you say so. Tell me why. So we're learning why, right, of all of it. And then it's up to us to decide, okay, that makes sense. I'll do it. And then if it makes sense and we don't do it, right, it's our fault, right? It is being stubborn. So generally an act of truth is like, if it's true, I had some pure intention here, then may what I've prayed for come true. But again, don't think that that means in the next moment or necessarily next week. Geshe says keep this up over time and it's liberating because we're growing this ability to constantly recognize here's a situation, here's the worldly way I would usually act, thinking that what comes next is the result of what I did, and realizing, no, that's not how the world works, right? I'm going to respond to this situation using it to plant seeds for the ripening of which, whether it happens sooner or later, doesn't matter. It will be great. And then it's like, yeah, but do you solve the problem in the moment, the in the moment problem by doing that? And it's hard because it's like, no, but you don't solve the in the moment problem by doing the worldly thing either. It just sometimes, even often, looks like it does. So we get fooled. And it's like, all right, so I don't know, I can't think of it, just a really ridiculous example. The laundry's ready to hang out on the line, and the worldly thing to do is hang the laundry on the line, right? It's to dry it. The wisdom thing, what is the wisdom thing? Is it to just leave the laundry in the basket, expecting it to, dry? Or do you take the laundry basket to somebody else? Or do you go to your neighbor and say, hey, do you have laundry to hang up, and leave yours, but do theirs? Like, how do we really use this stuff day to day? Or do we cultivate this different state of mind? I'm hanging up my laundry in order to stop the suffering of the world. How does hanging up laundry stop the suffering of the world? Because now that's why I'm doing it, right? Our intention. Well, that's crazy. It's not crazy. Anything can be a seed planting deed to stop the suffering of the world if we think of it that way. Well, anything that doesn't harm somebody, although technically even that, but anything that doesn't harm anybody. So acts of truth aren't so much the thing that we do. It's what goes into the choice and the state of mind we have as we're doing them. Right? When we have that conscious choice and state of mind, it might make a difference in how we choose to react in a situation of conflict, for instance, or a situation of great pleasure, right? That we want to cling to and hold to. Our act of truth, may I share this? May I offer this? And so different ways to use it. As we get habituated to that, always choosing the the highest kindness that we can find in a given situation. Geshe says we'll reach this level of happiness because we're getting to that place where we know that we're always trying our best to choose to do the right thing, the highest thing. And we're less reactive to what appears to happen next, right? Because we know those two are not related. Whatever happens next is coming out of my own seeds. So we're less trying to avoid and trying to grasp, and we're in the space of plant mode. And it's pleasurable to be in that mindset, right? Every unpleasantness All right, we burn it off. It's an opportunity, right, to act in a new, different way. Every pleasure, we're burning it off too. So we want to share it, we can offer it to try to perpetuate the pleasure, right? We don't, when we say uh, the suffering of change is the and then it's gone, right? The delicious bowl of ice cream, you come down to the last bite. We don't really want ice cream that lasts forever, I don't think. But that pleasure of ice cream, right? We want the pleasure to go on. And what is it about the ice cream that gives that pleasure? But turnips don't. Like, why can't turnips give this pleasure, right? Just like ice cream. Why can't breathing give us pleasure just like ice cream, right? It's the pleasure we want to go on, not the ice cream. So, acts of truth. There'll be times when our perception of what's highest or the right thing to do will be mistaken, right? Until we're omniscient, we don't exactly know. But we have the guidelines to follow, our vowed behaviors, which is what to avoid, which is a doing, right? And avoiding is a doing. But then we can take those what to avoid and flip them around to what to do, which helps us, have a list of behaviors to choose from when we've already thought out the opposite of the voice of avoidance. Do you see? One time years ago during retreat time, I sat down with all my vows and I thought, what would it be like what would the opposite be? Like, I will avoid praising myself and criticizing others. What would it be? What would they mean? Right? It would be, wow, I would be praising others all the time and criticizing myself. Well, I'm good at that already. But in the sense of being self-correcting, right? Checking myself constantly. And then it's like, wow, cool. What kind of result would that bring about? The seed planting of praising others all the time. It's like, wow, you're going to end up in a world where people see you highly, you get your right, your qualities are being praised all the time. Now it's like, do I really want that? Well, you know, they say you think of your holy Buddha who's looking after you, and you think of their good qualities and you sing their praises, and like that's all we have to do because it's such a goodness seed planting to think of your holy Buddha as like, wow, they're so beautiful, they're so wise, they're so amazing, like singing their praises. So with all of our vows, we can do this exercise. So once I did, it was like, oh my goodness, these vows are set up for us to create paradise. Like they will create abundance, they will create safety, they will create these perfect partnerships, they will create these beautiful still minds, and they will create the save the world. They're like built into the vows. All we have to do is avoid this and do that. So then I like looked at all the positives and it's like, okay, I can design my me into somebody who points out people's goodnesses, right? Does this, does that. It just helped me so much better. We don't take vows to do that because we can't. We can't keep ones that say I will do this all the time. But we can avoid things. We can vow to avoid things. Why did I go off onto that? Because it's how it helps us know what behavior to choose to in these active truths that I'm going to do, right? Because that's what they came from. Our vowed behaviors comes from an omniscient being, right? Who says this is what will help us, rather than needing to make it up ourselves, figure it out ourselves. And we rely upon our vows. All right. Doing the karmically highest thing must bring about a good result, a pleasurable result. So if it looks like a bad result comes from doing an act of truth, the two cannot be related, like Gandhi's broken arm and his passive resistance, right? Burning the card in the fire. And that's where the wisdom comes in, holding the world to view, which is what makes the act of truth the act of truth. Okay, got it? So, acts of truth. Doing TongLen is an act of truth. That's the point here. Because why else would you decide, may all that pain and suffering come to me? May I give away all my happiness? Right? If you went to somebody who came to you who's like in having terrible distress, their life is just so messed up, and you said to them, look, every time you see somebody in pain, say to the universe, give me that pain. I will give them my happiness. You know, that person would probably say, hi, I love you, goodbye, right? That makes no sense at all. I'm struggling. I can't take on another piece of suffering. I'm not going to ask for it. And yet, wouldn't that be a really powerful thing to do to stop the cycle of your own downward spiral life, right? Really, really difficult. So it's such a extraordinary goodness to be one who has the seeds, to sit in a class like this and be inspired with the idea, oh my gosh, I can use my breath to act from my growing compassion, to imagine that I'm taking somebody's pain, willing to do it, knowing I can't do it, but understanding that the wish to do it is stronger than any worldly thing that I would try to help them. Doesn't mean we don't do the worldly thing for someone if we can, when we can. We can always TongLen. It changes our seeds to see their suffering. And that's the only way to change their suffering anyway, is to change our seeds. So just to TongLen qualifies as an act of truth because there's no other reason to do it than our growing understanding of mental seeds and the infinite possibility of our experiences. All right, acts of truth. Okay, so let's go back now to, oh wait, to Lobsang Chuki Geltsen's. Oh, sorry, P, I didn't see that. Okay. Need to know you. Ooh, cute little blue. There we go. So last class, we were learning the verses from Lobsang Chuki Gyaltsen's Lama Chupa prayer practice. And we're in the section of asking the Lama for blessings. And the blessings we're asking for is the realizations of each of the stages of the path, the Lamrims. And we're in that section of asking for blessings to grow our bodhicitta, our wish to reach total Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, our bodhicitta in its form, in our appearing nature. They call it deceptive bodhicitta, but it's not deceptive. It's in the appearing world. In order to grow our goodness, to reach the bodhicitta that is the direct perception of emptiness bodhicitta, right? Same word, different manifestations of what that word is about. So I want to go back through it a little bit. When we're in the place of growing our bodhicitta, which means we're in the cusp between wanting our own freedom from suffering and recognizing clearly enough that, oh my gosh, it's really possible. And then for many of us to come to that understanding, our heart goes, well, if it's possible for me, it's possible for others. Right? And that doesn't occur to everybody, but for those that it does, right? That's the cusp of the Mahayana, the greater vehicle. And then we grow that greater vehicle to include all conscious beings, not just the ones we love, not just the ones like ourselves, not just human ones, but all of them. And we go through a process, or there are two different methods through which we grow this wisdom heart. One is that method of exchanging self and others. The other is the method of the 7-step cause and effect, of which there are 8 steps. And in Lobsang Chuki Gyaltsen's prayer, he's not going through those one by one, but he's has them all included, both the exchanging self and others and the 7-step cause and effect method. And in that section, as he's building it, we'll see in the end, he says, and the way to grow these two methods of bodhicitta ing is TongLen. So it's like, wow. So in the start, not complete start, in the start of this, he says, bless me to see that cherishing all these mother beings and the wish to see them all reach every form of happiness is the door that leads to infinite numbers of perfect personal qualities. Bless me then to love them all more than my own life, even if every one of them should suddenly think me their enemy. And it seems a little odd. It's like, wait a minute. If I'm loving everybody more and more, aren't they all gonna love me back? And it's like, yeah, eventually. But what about in the next moment or the next moment or the next moment? It's like we could imagine a case where We have a friend who's known us all through, college and work life, and they knew me to be a certain way and to like the same things they like. And then something happens to me and I start on this spiritual path and, come on, Sarani, let's go out to the bar on Friday. And it's like, oh, no, thanks. Another Friday. Come on. No, I've got something else I need. Right. Their feelings are going to get hurt if we don't like somehow make it make it better. Right? Because our feelings would get hurt if a friend changed in such a way that they seem to leave me out. And it's like, I don't know, human nature might be that me, the friend whose feelings are hurt, which might try to interfere with my friend's happiness, because I feel offended, I feel hurt, ugly. And then maybe I don't know, start some rumor about them that they then have to deal with in some way, right? Ugly kind of behavior that might happen because of the goodness one is growing, not because of the goodness, but because the goodness that we're doing, changing ourselves, is stirring up the sludge in our own heart. So maybe we get to this place where, our ability to love is really growing. We've cleaned out so much of the yuck of our own seeds, but there's still, right, this layer of sludge at the bottom. That as we continue to challenge ourselves in our loving compassion, that sludge starts to get stirred up. And it'll manifest in our world as these other beings that I'm loving seeming to get ugly and awful and mean and terrible. Geshe-la says it's actually a clue that you're on the cusp of something, of a bigger change. And that rather than, oh man, if this is how people are, maybe I don't really want to do it, is the risk, right? Losing our bodhicitta. As opposed to going, whoa, I must be on the cusp of something big. Right? I will keep loving them. He says it does happen. Right? So use TongLen on yourself, on them. Right? Recognize it when it happens and don't doubt. Right? Bear down. Continue. And here Losam Chuki Geltsen is saying, okay, bless me then to reach the ability to see myself and others as equal and to exchange them for myself. In a state of mind to sum it all up where I finally grasp the difference. The problems that come from acting as infants do, thinking only of themselves, and the good that comes from acting as the lords of the able do, thinking only of what others need. I love this verse because it just catches my heart, right? Infants are still in survival mode. They have to think only of themselves. Before we've seen emptiness directly, we are infant because all of our seeds that have been planted with me first. And so they're going to ripen as me first. Even if we don't want me first anymore, they're still going to ripen that way. So still infants. Somewhere along the line, our growing understanding of karma and emptiness, we become teenagers, says Master Kamala Shila. And it's kind of sweet, but teenagers, it's maybe not any less selfish as teenagers. We just kind of are better aware of it than we are as infants. Either way, Buddhas become Buddhas by way of their infinite loving compassion. which means their sense of self that's in their seeds now includes everybody, all beings, all existence, actually. So their love covers all, their compassion covers all. Their they their needs are met, others' needs are met, but they're not ever thinking my needs versus your needs because there's only all for them, right? So their compassion manifests as what any being needs at any time. Does the being see them that way? Probably not, right? I see the tree outside. I see a car accident. I see my next headache. I don't see that as Buddha manifesting to me. I could, but I don't. But Buddha does, right? All of them. So it's like, whoa, how wonderful it would be to move through life with this kind of being, right? What others need and want. Like, isn't it sweet when you end up with somebody and then all of a sudden something happens, they're in some kind of crisis, and you're the one there to give them the hug, or you're the one there to give them the ride that they need. You're the solution to their problem. You didn't intend it. It just happens. And it's like, wow, right? They're saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, because it's so amazing to get to be that for them. Like, imagine that's your, like, part of your identity is being that. Anyway, we're saying to the Lama, please bless me that I can reach that level of awareness of existence, right? That I can be thinking of only what others need without the underlying, what about me? Right? What about me? Is in there. Without that, how wonderful. I see that my internet's doing funny thing. Cherishing myself is the door to every trouble there is. Cherishing my mothers is the foundation of every quality I could have. Bless me then that this deep practice of exchanging others for myself might become the very heart of my daily practice. We'll learn that practice specifically in Master Shantideva's Course 11. TongLen is a part of it, right? To do TongLen is a kind of exchanging self and others because we're taking the time to recognize another's distress and try to understand it well enough to know what to take. And so to imagine putting ourselves in their shoes and thinking, how would I feel if I were in this situation? And then that's how we identify the black yuck inside them. We'll be wrong sometimes, right? Because their experience is their experience. We'll actually always be wrong. But we'll be right in the sense of, well, this is what my seeds are ripening. And so that's what I'm willing to take that. And then anything else that it might be as well. And so bless me, my holy Lama, bless me, Lama of compassion, that every living being there is may find every kind of happiness. Let all the evil deeds and obstacles, let all the pain that ever comes to every living being, every one of them, my mother, come and ripen upon myself, ripen upon me now. And let any goodness I ever do and all my happiness be sent away to others. So in this sequence of verses, we're seeing the steps of the 7-step cause and effect method. All beings, we've said that multiple times, They're all my mothers. Right? This verse points out first, we state our love for them, and then we recognize their suffering, and our compassion wants to take it from them. And then we can actually give them the goodness that our love wants to give them up here. And then that all takes us to the personal responsibility. They're my mother. So if we're standing with a group of people and we see, a dog fall in to the down the ravine, and we stand around, who's going to go down and get the dog, right? It's like, oh, my mother, phew, you're the one who goes. It's this idea. But then we recognize any worldly thing I do falls short. Yes, I do the worldly thing. But then that my mother will just go on to hurt in some other way. How can I help her ultimately? Her, them, ultimately. I can't know how to help ultimately until I'm Buddha, until I'm omniscient, until my compassion and wisdom is so big, right, that I become what they need to stop their suffering forever. That's bodhicitta. So from love, from mother to love, to compassion, to love, to personal responsibility, to, oh my gosh, I can't do it without being Buddha, is growing our bodhicitta. We are growing that by way of our TongLen practice. I'm going to show you how if I ever get there. So let's take our break. I'm going to leave the recording going so there'll be a blank. And I need to stop sharing. Move you guys. Stop sharing. Put this one up. Yes, Frank.
May I ask something?
Yes.
So I still don't understood the concept of truth in the words of act of truth, not actually. So what does it mean? Truth means something else than we know in a Western way. I
Right. Okay.
suspect.
Yeah. Truth means um uh an act of truth means I have chosen the behavior to do based on the understanding of karma and emptiness, based on the understanding that nothing has any nature of its own. So what makes me experience something the way I do is the ripening results of my own past deeds, which means my own current deeds become the cause for anything I experience in the future. That's the truth we're talking about here.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's packed. Like it takes about 10
Totally.
years to understand all of that, right? 10 years of study.
Okay, sorry.
So no, you're doing fine. The act of truth. Because like our logic should say, well, there really is no such thing as truth. Truth for everybody. There's no such thing. And this school would agree with that. And it is true that every conscious being is what they are based on ripening seeds from past deeds they've planted. That is the explanation for existence. So they would say that's what we mean by truth. But it's not a self-existent truth. It's an explanation of existence, right?
Okay, need to think about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Santa, come back. Okay. So I just wanted to show you this vocabulary for the blessing, which Yeong Jumpa, Yeong means pretty. Yeong Jumpa is pretty love. Ningjae is the essence of our heart, compassion. Laksam Namdak is that personal responsibility. And Changchub Semke is our wish for Buddhahood, our bodhicitta. So that the sequence that Lobsang Chuki Gyaltsen is taking us through in our prayer is that we're asking for the blessings to grow these states of mind so that the Yeong Jompa is trying to convey the kind of love that we have, like a mother for her only precious child. It's like as the infant, they can do no wrong, right? And you pick out their voice amongst the thousands in the crowd of children. Then as that child grows, yes, they, right, have their own personality traits, etc. But mother's love, fathers as well. Mother's love is still this one special, right? Young, pretty love, it's called. It's not saying it's a lesser kind of love at all. Pretty love is this, oh my gosh, they are just so special to me. And so we've already set up that all these beings are our mothers, and so they've benefited us, and so we want to repay them. But now the love that we're growing for them is the love of a mother for their child, right? It's a little schizophrenic, right? First, I'm the child, they're all my mothers, but then the love I have is as if I'm the mother and they're the children, which I don't know, I'm not a mother. And, but it's like I relate to that much more, right? I had a wonderful mother. I do love her very much. And I did want to repay her. I look forward to taking care of her, and then I didn't get to. And and yet when it's like take care of other people, it's like, no, it's like they're my children, not my mother. So it's both states of mind that we're relying upon to grow this love that becomes a Buddha's love. Yeong Jumpa. Ningje is that compassion we've talked about. Okay, so doing TongLen, deciding to TongLen is a method through which our Yeong Jumpa grows, our Ningje grows, our Laksam Namdat grows, and our Bodhicitta grows. Without having to say, okay, now I'm going to TongLen somebody to give them Yeong Jumpa. You don't have to do that. We just TongLen. And then, son of a gun, these things, right? They start to bubble up out of us because they're in there too. How do I know? Because here you are in a class, right? Hearing me talk about them. Those are your seeds. Thank you very much. Right? Okay, so let's go back to the prayer verse. So once we know all this that I've been explaining, it's all included in this one prayer. And so bless me, my holy Lama, bless me, Lama of compassion, that every living being there is may find every kind of happiness. Let all the evil deeds and obstacles, let all the pain that ever comes to every living being, every one of them my mother, come and ripen upon myself, ripen upon me now. And let any goodness I ever do and all my happiness be sent away to others. Can we send our happiness away to others? No. Can we take their pain away? No. So why wish to do it? Right? That's always the answer. Seed planting. TongLen works by its seed planting. We're going to talk about it more. Everything works by seed planting. That would be an act of truth, to always seed plant instead of think I can, right, make something happen in the next moment. It seems almost impossible, but it's not. This world and every being who lives upon this world are filled with the results of every wrong ever done. Let a shower of suffering fall of things I never wanted. Bless me to see it all as a way that all the fruits of my own bad deeds might finally be exhausted. Bless me to learn to take every problem that ever comes to me into a path that takes me further. We'll learn this practice more specifically when we learn ACI 14, the Lojong course. Uh, it it is a method through which we learn how to view the immediate circumstances of our life. When they're pleasant, great, good seeds ripening, I'll share them. When they're unpleasant, great, bad seeds ripening, I will burn them off and act differently, right? Act with greater wisdom. Do an act of truth instead of a worldly act. So that either way, it's like, great. It's hugely different state of mind than the ordinary human one. I want pleasure. I want to avoid unpleasure. And having that direct our day. Because the harder we try to avoid unpleasure, it seems the less we're able to. And it makes sense because we're doing the wrong things to try to avoid unpleasant. But we get to this point where it doesn't matter, pleasant or unpleasant, not meaning we become like robot, but meaning at either place, it's a seed planting opportunity and we're eager to do it. In brief, bless me to learn to change everything that appears to me, whether it be good or bad, into a path for increasing the two forms of the wish for enlightenment through practicing the five powers, the essence of all the Dharma there is, and experience then only joy. Bless me that I may learn the skillful means of all four practices, where I turn everything that I ever encounter from hour to hour into something for me to meditate upon. Bless me that I bring great meaning to this life of leisure and fortune, using the teachings to practice developing the good heart, all the various commitments, and the different kinds of trainings. Bless me to use the mystic machine of giving and taking, riding on the breath, love and compassion, and the willingness to free all beings myself, to practice that one thought, the wish for enlightenment, to free every living being from this vast sea of suffering. So this is the other verse in Lama Chupa that is specific to TongLen practice. So we have those two. I think it was verse 89, the bless me, my holy Lama, bless me, Lama of compassion, that verse, and this one. This one uh, is part of the Lojong practices from a specific Lojong called Lojong Dunduma, which was first written down by a lama called Tokpe Sangpo in the 1200s AD in Tibet. So these practices called Lojong, which means it means mind training, but in the sense of growing our heart's love and compassion, growing our bodhicitta. Those practices about exchanging self and others and the 7-step cause and effect to bodhicitta. They were teachings that were handed down one-on-one, teacher to student, based on the teacher's perception of the student's readiness. And for a few generations, they were held deeply secret. And then at some point, this particular Lama Tokpe Sangpo, he recognized that the reasoning for keeping them deeply secret was that people who weren't well prepared would hear that teaching, wish to take all suffering onto yourself, and wish to give all your happiness, all your goodness away to others. And if people are still in this mindset of survival mode, their reaction to that teaching is going to say, no, I can't do that. That's nuts. And to reject a high teaching is worse than to not have heard it at all in a given lifetime. Those teachings are apparently such a high, powerful teaching that it was worse to hear it and reject it than to not hear it at all. It's interesting. But Togme Sangpo, he recognizes that if there's one person that doesn't get to hear it and they were ready, he says, to me, that's worse than giving it to somebody who rejects it. And I don't know the circumstance, but I could imagine that maybe by his time, there, I don't know, maybe he was getting close to the end of his time on earth. And he was thinking, if I leave this practice and my students don't teach it to others, it's going to get lost in the world. So he wrote it down for the first time. That's the gist of this story. He finally wrote it down. The Lojong Dunduma. He didn't write the Lojong. He just wrote it down. And so it got carried down to the lineage so that we have it. And then after his bravery to do that, other Lojongs got written down as well. And once they were written down, right, they're findable. And so then the teachings started going public. And actually they caught on in Tibet to a great extent and became this beautiful whole right wave of Lojong practice. So one of the in the Lojong Dunma, there are these snippets of wisdom, and one of them says, of course, now I can't find it in my notes. It says, use the two, something like use the two to take away pain and give happiness. I'll find it and I'll give it to you exactly. But it doesn't say do TongLen, but it's the reference to using our winds and mind directed towards stopping suffering and bringing happiness. And it's reference to this idea of a mystic machine. In other places, this mystic machine is translated as a crane machine. So you know how a crane, a great big crane, it's this big machine that allows us to lift some really heavy object, like up many stories, that it would be almost impossible to get that big heavy object up the stairs. Just it would take many, many strong people to do it. But with a crane, it's like, whoa, easy. Hard work, but easy. What if you're one of the slaves in Egypt building the pyramids, struggling, toiling with those big, huge, heavy blocks, and somebody comes along with a crane machine and it's like, just put it on here. And the driver of the crane, put puts it on the top. It would be like magic. Oh my gosh, that saved us so much trouble. Yeah. TongLen, the practice of giving and taking, writing on the breath, is like this crane machine lifting this heavy burden of our old world view up through the levels of the developing bodhicitta, the 7-step method, the exchanging self and other method. TongLen is this magical machine that shows up right in ancient Egypt, right? Our worldview and our suffering is the ancient Egypt slaves struggling. Along comes the crane machine, TongLen practice, and our heart gets elevated so easily compared to the struggle of just going through life after life, learning lessons. Okay. What does it lift us through? Growing our love, growing our compassion, growing our willingness to free all beings ourselves, growing that into the state of heart of bodhicitta. I will become Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. That's what I'm doing day to day. I'm in that process, right? To free every living being from this vast sea of suffering. And it's important, this word willingness. Because even as fully enlightened beings, we still cannot take people's suffering from them. As Buddha, we have the ultimate willingness to do so. And that willingness manifests as the compassion that manifests as being what they need. But that Buddha can't make me see them doing that for me. I don't know. I often think, man, it must be frustrating to be a Buddha. But no, not if frustrating is a negative state of mind, right? Infinite patience. So willingness. Are we willing to take somebody's pain? And it's like, yeah, knowing I can't really do it. I can say I'm willing, but what if we really could do it? Would we still be willing? Right? We do want to dance with that a little bit, right? For our own mind. But it will be never the case that we can take somebody's suffering onto ourselves. Even if we TongLen somebody with cancer and then, oh my gosh, a month later, I get the same diagnosis they have, right? Our heart might say, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. But it would be a misunderstanding. We can't take the wish to do so and the willingness to do so. And then to just use our breath and our imagination to pretend we can do so, that's the crane machine to our bodhicitta. Now, why is it the crane machine? Because of this resonance between our gross breath and our imagining with our subtle wind and subtle mind that makes up our subtle body. So we as humans we have this gross body and we have this gross body that has inner organs and a structure. And we believe that this is my real body and that inner structure is my real inner structure. And it is, and it isn't. That this body also has a subtle structure that with our sense organs we cannot see, but we have. It is, it is a, it is, it is as real as our brains and lungs. And it's called the channels, winds, and drops. So these channels are subtle pathways through which our consciousness moves from place to place, is directed to move from need to need, not place to place, from need to need. So, for instance, we have a consciousness that happens as we eat. And to experience eating, there's a consciousness that has to go up to where those sensations are. And then there has to be a consciousness that goes down, right? As we have the experience of swallowing, and a consciousness that has to be doing whatever we say the stomach's doing, that becomes a subtle consciousness. We're not aware of it. So anything that's happening, there has to be this movement of the mind. The mind cannot move itself. So moving in these pathways called channels is something called wind. It's a subtle, it's what we call subtle movement. And those winds and the mind, they ride like horse and rider. Luksem jukpa chikpa. The mind can't move without a wind. Where the wind goes is directed by the mind, mostly, right? Like a rider that's riding intentionally, right? You can be a rider on the horse, and the horse can be going anywhere it wants. Dangerous business. So these subtle movements and the mind that rides on those movements has a correspondence, a resonance with our gross breath and what we put on that gross breath. The winds in the subtle body are not subtle version of the breath. That's different. But as the subtle body winds move, so moves the outer breath. And as the outer breath moves, it affects these subtle winds as well. For example, when we're really angry or really fearful, our breath will get really choppy and short. Maybe we'll even hold it. And that affects the subtle body such that fear like cramps us into fight or flight reaction. If we can catch that pattern at the level of our breathing and consciously, intentionally slow it down, regulate it, the experience is that the central nervous system calms down. What's happening is that these winds and mind that are getting all trapped calm and can move more slowly. It's or effectively, they have a resonance. So in the ordinary condition, meaning ignorant, selfish me, these channels through which the winds and mind flow, they're twisted, knotted, kinked, clogged, frayed, and it makes the winds and mind, they move with difficulty. And all of that difficulty is experienced by us not as, oh my gosh, my channels are all clogged up, but as anxiety, hurt, jealousy, right? All of these different patterns, or back pain, nausea, right? All our experiences of life are resonances of this pattern of flow of the winds and mind. And when it's flowing, kinked, frayed, clogged, life is kinked, frayed, clogged. When our thoughts and heart become more pure, more kind, more loving, then the result is that these channels are opening up, and the winds and mind can flow more easily. So it's like chicken or the egg. What starts first, cleaning the channels or growing a good heart? And for some people, they work on their channels first. One method of working on our channels is, yike, it's after 6:30, is yoga exercise, Tai Chi exercise, Qigong exercise, lots of different ways to do it. Music, dance, right? They'll all have this effect on a subtle body, whether we know it or not. When we use them intentionally, right, we can be more effective. And we can do it by intentionally trying to grow our love and compassion. When we intentionally grow our love and compassion, and we have that ride on our breath, we are creating this resonance in the subtle body that helps those channels open up, the winds and mind run more smoothly, that allows our TongLen practice to be more natural, more easeful, more wanting to do it, more willing to do it, more automatic, right? Happening eventually even unaware. And so the beauty of TongLen is that it's setting us up for these changes in our subtle body, that if we continue on this path in particular, and go into the diamond way practice is about working at that subtle body level specifically. And if we've already been doing it with TongLen, guess what? There's not much to do when you get to your creation and completion stage. Like, it'll come easily if we even need to do it at all. So they're making this case for TongLen is actually a sutra practice that's diamond way practice together, right? And it's so beautiful to get to hear that, instead of just to be told, do TongLen, it's a beautiful practice, right? Which is what I learned and did for the first 10 years, right, of my Buddhist path. And it serves, right? It still serves me. Okay, so enough said, let's do our sit. And for this sit, Geshe-la suggested that we choose a different person than we've been working on if you've been using the same person. Just right, for a challenge to our own mind. I'm going to add to that, however, that if you feel like your TongLen is building a deep connection with that person in terms of how you seem to be helping them, then stick with them. It's okay. Because in this time, we're going to add the first Tong part, right? The giving. So Still, this person that we're going to use, somebody you love, somebody you care about, right? Because it makes our Tonglen easier to do. And then I'm going to do the preliminary called the uh, Lama Blessing preliminary because I talked too long. And then we'll do the taking first, a little bit faster than usual. And then, because I want time enough for the giving part, right? So settle your body, please. Okay. Okay. Understand. All right. Bring your attention to your breath. Coming to the breath first triggers our mental habit to turn inside, to turn on your meditating mind. Recall this precious holy being, your own personal guide is there with you. Ask them to bless you with this ability to do this session, to learn from it. And see them agree, and they beam a light of their blessings into you. And then bring to mind this person that we will Tonglen. In your mind's eye, see where they are. And imagine you can invisibly be right there with them. Recognize the distress that they are in. Be specific. Recognize the feelings, their reaction. What they intend to do about it. Feel your growing wisdom that sees how this is coming out of their seeds driven by past misunderstanding. And feel your understanding that our own seeds are ripening to see this person in this kind of distress. So your wish to help them grows really strong. And by the power of your concentration, you see all the black yuck of that particular distress inside their subtle body. And because of our concentration, it gathers into that tight little ball in the middle of their chest. Use 3 breaths to gather it all. Then decide that we will take it from them and turn your focus to your exhales, seeing that ribbon of exhale. Go towards them and then into them. And then hook into that black little ball. Then just shift your focus to your inhales, drawing that black ball up and out of them. Easy, slow, nice inhales. Until you have that little black ball hovering below your own nostrils. Identify it again. Then leave it there. Look into your own chest. Doggone it, there's that little flame of my own selfishness, my own misunderstanding. And I can use this willingness to take their suffering in the form of that black ball to destroy both it and my misunderstanding. And I'm going to do it. So when you're ready, you know what to do. Start with the long exhale. And then rest in that absence of that stuff, breathing normally. Then your love stirs forth, and you look again at that person, and you see them. They're suddenly so relieved. They know what they need to do in this circumstance. They have confidence. And then your love says, and wouldn't it be wonderful if they could really get some ease in their lives, some happiness, if they could actually get some of those things that they're struggling for. And so think of something, one material thing that you either know or believe that they would like to have. And maybe one emotion that they would like to be feeling, or maybe some spiritual goal. And feel in your heart Wouldn't it be fun if I could give them those things? And so by having that thought, you see that the inside of your own body is this beautiful white light, so peaceful and knowing and loving. And we decide, I'm going to send that white light into them and use it to give them this happiness. And so again, focus on your exhale. And this time, what's exhaling is some of this glowing white light. The light inside you is not diminishing. It's flowing, a beam of it is flowing out towards them, towards them, towards them. And this time, as it reaches them, it spills over their outer body. And some of it goes into them on their inhales. And that white light that's bathing them from the outside, it, I know how to say it, as they experience through it, they don't see it. What they experience is that suddenly they have that material thing they were wishing for. Maybe it's a delicious cup of coffee. Maybe it's their child coming home for Christmas. Maybe it's that reliable car. No limit to what your white light can help them perceive. And then the white light flowing to their inside, filling them with that white light on the inside. Maybe they're experiencing as this deep peacefulness. Or their jealousy turns to admiration for someone. Whatever you believe would help them be happy. Your light becomes that for them. And so see them enjoying this state of mind, of heart. Feel yourself enjoying this state of mind, this heart. Then release that image. Bring your invisible you back into this visible you in this room, in this class. Think of this goodness that we've done. Think of it as a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hand. And feel happy with yourself. These good seeds ripening and amazingly good seeds being planted. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Ask them to stay close, to continue to guide you and inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever, their love, their compassion, their wisdom. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. Our dedication prayer is also an act of truth prayer. We can add, by the power of the blessings of those Ganthas, by the power of the truth of karma and emptiness, by the power of my pure willingness to free all beings myself, may all that I have prayed for here so purely come to pass. And so use those 3 long exhales to share all this goodness with that one other. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with every kind of happiness. All filled with wisdom. And may it be so. Okay. So isn't that fun? Sending them white light and then like anything they want. Fun practice. It's fantasy, yes. And it's planting seeds. No limit to what you can TongLen. And it feels so good when we're done. So yeah, great. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a lovely weekend. I'll see you again Monday morning, right? We have a few classes yet to do together. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Welcome,
Namaste.
Thank you.
You
Be
so much.
happy. Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Love
Stop
you.
recording. Thank you, Roxana. You are